well, welcome to this My tutorial. So today we're going to be looking at some Polygon based modeling and some Polygon based manipulation. So we're looking at things like Boolean objects, extrude and bevel. Okay, so first of all we want to start off by making some Polygon based objects. So if we choose, make sure we have the modeling tab selected, and the poly modeling tab selected here. So we have curved surfaces, then poly modeling. And you can see here with curved surfaces, we've got some very similar shapes here. We have a sphere and we have a cube, but they're going to be different. So we want to make sure we have these orange polygon based modeling objects here. So what I'm going to do is start off by creating a cylinder, and I'm just going to do that by clicking, and then I'm going to click and drag on the grid and then click and drag up like that. Okay, you can see here I've got a very basic cylinder. It's only got 8 sides. So what I'm going to do is go into the attribute editor, and I'm going to choose the polycylinder one. I'm going to change the subdivisions from 8 to 16 and click away. And you can see now that's changed my polygon. So I've got my polygon based cylinder. So I've actually got 16 subdivisions rather than 8. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'll close my attribute editor, and I'm going to right click and choose face. Okay, so when I choose these faces, I can manipulate those faces as we saw last tutorial. I'm going to undo that because I don't want to do manipulate those. But what we can do here is up the top here we have these menu items. So there's 3 menu items in a row that have the word mesh in them. So we have mesh, we have edit mesh, and we have mesh tools. So we have these 3 mesh menus. So these are the 3 menus we're going to be using primarily for everything we do within this tutorial, and mostly with your project you're going to be using these 3 menus, maybe over here too because it's some duplication, but it's just poly modeling and mesh. This is the section of Maya we're really concentrating on. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at an extrude. So an extrude takes a face and projects it outwards. So let's have a look at that. So I can go to edit mesh, and down here extrude, and you can see here that there's a shortcut here, Control E for extrude. So if you forget that shortcut, always remember it's to do with changing mesh. Then it's going to be up here. So we're going to choose mesh tools, edit mesh and extrude. And then I've got this polygon selected here. And what I'm going to do is choose this blue arrow, and I'm going to extrude this upwards. So can you see that? So the difference between moving and extruding is that I've actually created all of this extra mesh in between. You can see that. So when I move a polygon like this one, it moves all of these attached polygons with it, which is not what I want. I actually want extrude, which is a slightly different tool, and we can see here we've created these extrusions is the correct word. So we've created that, because I'm actually going to undo that extrude. And what I'm going to do is turn this into a gear. Now there's actually a pre-made tool to build gears in Maya, which we can just do create polygon primitives, and right down here there's a gear. But we're going to actually make one. We're going to use some modeling tools to make a gear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose each second polygon by shift selecting, and then I'm going to use Alt and shift select. I'm just going to select every second one, and as we remember we had 16 subdivisions. We're going to have 8 polygons selected. So we can just spin around that, and if I want to centralize that, I press the F key, and that way I've focused in the middle, and I can rotate around that and nice and neatly. So it's going to make my life easier. Once again, I'm going to go edit mesh and extrude, or I can just go Control E or Command E if you're on Mac, which I hope you're not. and we can just extrude outwards. See that? So we've extruded all of these faces outwards. All right. And we've created sort of a gear-like shape. Very good. All right. Now, the next one we're going to have a look at is in the same menu, in the same Edit Mesh menu. And all these tools are going to be in either Mesh, Edit Mesh, or Mesh Tools. So keeping those three tools in mind. What we're going to do is keeping those selected. Actually, I'll just do one to show you. So I'm going to choose Edit Mesh and Bevel. And you can see there, this has also got a shortcut, Control B. Now, Bevel is a little bit, has a few more commands to it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select Bevel. And you can see here, it's beveled that edge. So it's made that edge smoother. Now, what I can do here is in my attribute editor, I can change my bevel attribute. See how I've got this I've got two segments. I can change that back to one segment, or I can make that smoother, or I can make the bevel larger. See that? I can adjust the bevel. So this is in my attribute editor. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think my bevel looks pretty good like that. All right. So, but what I actually want to do is I want to make all of these beveled at the same time. So what I'm going to do is Control Z a whole bunch of times till I'm back where I have all of these faces selected. So I want to bevel all of these faces simultaneously. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose Edit Mesh, Bevel, or I can just press Control B. You can see that. I'm going to drop that back to one segment and increase my fraction. So now I have a much better looking cogwheel. Now the next tool we're going to look at is Boolean, and Boolean is a special way of joining objects together. So we have of making two polygon objects join together. So what I'm going to do is I want to cut a big hole out of this mesh. So I want to cut a big hole in the middle. But the first thing I want to do is just use this sphere as a just to show you what this tool does. So I'm going to click and drag and make my polygon sphere. Now, if you're just a little side note here, if you're making your polygons and you click on here and it just pops up, what you need to do is go to Create. So the Create menu. So this is only if your tool isn't working like mine is. So you change Create Polygon Primitives, and I'm just going to click the top of this so I can see this menu. And you can see here it's got this little tick box called Interactive Creation. Just make sure you've got Interactive Creation selected, and see all these great little tools that you have here as well. These are very useful. So this interactive creation is what allows you to click and drag to create your objects. So make sure you've got that selected. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is show you how the Boolean tool works. So make sure that we have object mode selected on both of them. So we're an object, so we're not selecting polys. And the Boolean tool is just, remember, we've got these three menus: Mesh, Edit Mesh, and Mesh Tool. So Mesh and Booleans, and we have three types of Booleans. And this is just three different ways of joining objects. So union just joins them together. I'm not even going to show that now because it's not really going to be a good spending of time. So I'm going to select both objects. So I select this first object, then the second object. Then I'm going to choose Mesh, Booleans, and Difference. And what that's done is cut the second object out of the first object. See that? So I've created a nice scoop out of my gear. Control Z to undo. The last one is I'm going to choose both objects. I'm going to choose Mesh, Booleans, and Intersection. And this is just going to keep the mesh that is overlapping between the two objects. So it should be part of a sphere. So if we look at that, That's just the part that was overlapping between the two objects. Very good. So I'll undo that. So for this to work, what I want to do is cut a hole out of the middle. So I'm going to use this Polygon cylinder. I'm going to bump this up to 16, just like the other one. And I'm going to place it in the middle, more or less. This is a bit of a near enough, good enough. And if I want to get this a bit more accurate, I can tap the space bar like we did previously. Have a look from the top view, and we can actually see that's pretty close. Not exact, but it'll do. So tap space bar again. Go back to perspective so we can rotate around. And I want to chop this all the way through. So I'm going to choose the cogwheel first, because we have to choose the object, the main object first, and then the cutting object second. Shift click, and then I'm going to choose mesh, booleans, and difference. And what that's done is it's cut the hole. It's a little bit ski with, but we can definitely spend some more time on that. But you get the general idea of how this tool works. All right. Now the last part of this tutorial, I'm going to make a chair out of a box. So we're going to use some object manipulation for that. So all I'm going to do is create a box, and this is just going to be the box. It's going to be the seat, the actual part that you put all your weight on. So it's going to be sort of the base of a chair shaped, and this is obviously not to scale. Press F to make that central if I like. I can see my box. So what I want to do is firstly I want to extrude up a back of my chair. So what I'm going to do is I need mesh along here. So I need this to be a cube here to be able to cut it out. So the next tool we're going to have a look at is the insert edge loop tool, and that's in this same area here. So not mesh, not edge mesh, but mesh tools, and insert edge loop. Okay, so what this is doing is it's creating extra mesh where we want it to. So it's creating an extra edge, see that? So I'm clicking and dragging along here. I've created an extra edge. So I've got a new edge, and therefore I've got a new face. Make sure you select off the tool. So now I've got this new face that is exactly how I want to extrude for my chair back. So we're all familiar with what a chair looks like. We can choose extrude, edit mesh extrude. If you remember, it's Control E, but if you forget that, it's always up in the same menu. They're all together, and you can see it there. It's got the little reminder there, so you can slowly learn those shortcuts. So extrude or Control E. I'm going to use this little blue arrow that bring that up. Want a bit of a taller chair. Good. So, but what I want to have is on the back here, on the bottom here, I want to have legs extruded out as well. So I'm going to need 4 little boxes for these legs to extrude out. So that means I need more mesh. I'm going to use the exact same method to create some extra mesh. So what I'll do is use mesh tool. So once again, these same menu items, insert edge loop, and I'm going to select an edge loop on either side here. 1, 2, and now you see over here that I want a little box here to extrude out the leg, because we've got our 4 legs. Once again, we're all familiar with what a chair looks like. I'm going to right click on here and choose face, and I'm going to choose those 4 faces that I want to extrude into chair legs. So what I'm going to do is press Control E, or if I forget Control E, it's Edit Mesh. They're all in the same spot. And extrude. So I'm going to go Control E this time, just to remind you. And see, that's giving me this option. Now I keep on using this blue arrow, which is the easiest way to extrude because it extrudes outwards. You can extrude sideways, but that's not what we want at the moment. And you can extrude, you can scale extrude, but we we're really going to use the, we really want to use this arrow. So I'm going to extrude downwards like that. And there we have it. I'm just going to do this by eye. I'm not going to measure it out or anything like that. And all of a sudden, we've turned a box into a chair. It's probably not the most comfortable looking chair in the world, though, I want to point out. So I don't know about you, but my chair has a bit of a curve in the back of it. So I want to create a little bit of, I want to curve, start to create more of a shape to this chair. So what I'm going to do is choose Mesh. And we've done this already before, Mesh Tools. And I'm going to use the Insert Edge Loop tool. I'm going to create another one here. And what I'm going to do is I can either select the polys, or I can select the vertexes, or I can select the edges. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to just choose vertex, choose my arrow, my move tool. I'm just going to select all of these vertexes here. See all of those? So I'm going to select, drag, click and drag all those vertexes. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a lean backwards. And I also want to make this chair sort of narrower at the top. It's going to narrow in. So I'm going to use my scale tool. I'm just going to scale this just on the blue axis, just on the x-axis. See that? So I'm going to scale that in. And I'm just going to choose my face. I'm going to move that last face upwards. So then we've got, it's starting to look a little bit more chair-like. Very good. All right, so the last thing we're going to do with this object is, what I want to do is smooth this out. So remember our 1, 2, and 3 keys give us a smooth view. So it actually looks a bit more like a plastic chair. But you can, I don't know about the style of this. See, I've got these really pointy legs at the moment. So with Mesh Smooth, what I can do is I can have a look at this Mesh Smooth. I can actually have a look at the Mesh Smooth in here. Smooth Mesh, see that? And I can show what it's actually doing here. I can actually show display subdivision. So you don't need to do this, but I'm just showing you for this to give you the idea of how this smooth works. As I press if I press display subdivisions, this shows you that it's divided each one of these polygons into 2 and then into 2 again. So it's created a smooth that way. So you don't need to see that while you're modeling, but that's what's creating this sort of smoothness. And what I want to do is I want to, I don't want these chair bases, the base of these chair feet to be so pointy. So what we can do is use a tool called the crease tool. So I'm going to choose my edges. So the crease tool takes an edge and flattens it. So it takes a curve and unsmooths it. Yeah. So I want some edges that I want to have nice and creased. So once again, using the Mesh Tools menu, I choose the Crease tool. So you can see here, all in these same menus, Mesh Tool and Crease. Okay. And now I use my middle mouse button. I click and I drag. And see how it's going to flatten that out? Oh. It's only flattening it out a little bit. But if I wanted to choose all of these, I can flatten this chair out. See that? And now it's looking a bit more like a normal chair. You can see here that this line here would be extraordinarily uncomfortable to sit on. So I'm going to use my crease tool to put a crease in that and make it look a bit more like a regular chair. So the Mesh Smooth and the crease tool can be used in conjunction to have an object that's smooth, but you can make it more specific. So I want to do that I want to do the same thing with the legs here. So I'm just going to use my pointer tool here, actually just my arrow tool. I'm going to select all these legs. I'm going to choose Mesh Tools and Crease Tool. And then I'm going to use my middle mouse button to flatten these out. Flatten the curve, as to speak. Alright. So now you can see that we've got a nicely flattened curve. But maybe these side ones are a little bit too flat. So what I might do is do the same thing and select them. But I'm going to recurve those. So I'm going to go backwards. So I just click my middle mouse button and travel back the other way. So I can just dial them in a bit better. Yeah, I think I might just have a little bit of sharpness on them, a little bit of crease. And now our chair is looking significantly much more like a chair. So to conclude, we have our polygon-based objects that we've been using, all in the Polygon menu here. And we've been using these mesh tools to manipulate our polygons. So we've used our faces to extrude and bevel like we did over here with the, like I did here with the cogwheel. And I've used the crease tool, the insert edge loop, and the mesh smooth tool to create our chair. So there's a whole bunch of other object manipulation tools in here, which we're going to cover in another lesson. But if you're ever trying to do something to change the look of a mesh, just look over in these menus here and you'll probably find what you're looking for. So for example, if I want to cut some of the mesh, then I might see something, oh, cut, that might work. So it's very easy to sort of get a gauge for what these items do by experimenting, or sometimes you need to look them up a little bit more. All right, so that concludes this lesson. Thank you very much.